It was the last Friday of the semester at Lincoln Middle School, the kind of day when teachers counted the minutes, students buzzed with anticipation, and the gym echoed with the sound of folding chairs, squeaking sneakers, and the hum of bad microphone feedback. The school was hosting its annual end-of-term assembly, where teachers gave out silly awards, students performed skits, and the principal delivered her usual "be kind, be curious, be safe" speech. Backstage, Principal Monroe checked her clipboard while calling instructions to the sound crew. On the far edge of the gym, sweeping near the bleachers, was a man most students never gave a second thought. His name was Mr. Ray, the janitor, always in dark blue coveralls, keys jingling from his belt loop. He moved through the school with a quiet rhythm, cleaning up spills, unjamming lockers, fixing lights without being asked. He was invisible in that way adults sometimes are when they aren't loud, powerful, or standing in front of a classroom. But today that changed. The students were halfway through their skits when someone near the front row noticed Mr. Ray sweeping. A boy named Darren nudged his friend and said too loudly, "Hey, look, it's the mop guy. Maybe he'll do a cleaning dance for us." A few kids laughed. One even mimicked mopping the air, making exaggerated faces. Laughter echoed across the gym. Mr. Ray paused. He wasn't embarrassed, exactly, more tired than anything. Tired of being seen only for the tools in his hands. Tired of the jokes. Principal Monroe heard it. She turned sharply, catching the tail end of the laughter and the look on Mr. Ray's face. Her jaw tightened. She walked over to the podium. "Before we continue with our next act," she said into the microphone, "I want to do something we've never done at this assembly." The gym quieted. "I'd like to invite someone up here who does more for this school than anyone else in this room." She turned toward Mr. Ray. "Mr. Rita Ray, would you please come join me on stage?" The gym froze. A few students exchanged awkward looks. Darren shrank slightly in his seat. Mr. Ray blinked, caught off guard. "Me? Yes." Principal Monroe smiled. "You." He wiped his hands on a rag, walked slowly to the stage, and climbed the steps. His boots echoed on the wood floor. He stood beside the principal, unsure what to do with his hands. Monroe handed him the microphone. "You've earned this," she whispered. "Say whatever you want." Mr. Ray looked out over the crowd. Hundreds of young faces, some embarrassed, some confused, most just silent. He took a breath, and then he spoke. Mr. Ray stood under the gym's glaring lights, microphone trembling slightly in his hand. For a long second, he didn't say a word. The silence was thick, not uncomfortable, but weighty, as if the entire school had paused its breath. Finally he began. "I wasn't expecting this," he said, his voice gravelly but clear. "I came in this morning thinking about broken lockers and which hallway needed mopping after lunch. Never thought I'd be up here, talking." A few quiet chuckles rolled across the crowd. He nodded. "I've been working at Lincoln for 15 years. I've seen a lot of faces come and go. Students, teachers, principals. Some of you I remember when you were this tall." He gestured with his hand. "Some of you I only know by the footprints you leave behind when it rains." That got a few laughs, the gentle kind. He smiled just a little. "I know I'm the guy with the mop, the keys, the bucket. I know I'm not the one teaching science or coaching basketball. But I've seen what happens in these halls. I've seen the kindness, the cruelty, the moments when someone picks up a dropped pencil, and the moments when someone knocks a lunch tray down, just to be funny." His eyes scanned the crowd slowly. He wasn't looking for sympathy, just understanding. "Some of you think my job isn't much. Maybe you think it's something to laugh at, that pushing a broom makes someone less." The gym was still now. Darren, the boy who had started the joke, was staring hard at the floor. Mr. Ray didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "But let me tell you what I see," he continued. "I see kids who are trying to figure out who they are. Kids who are scared to speak up. Kids who walk alone. hoping someone might say their name. I see students who think no one notices when they're hurting. He paused, emotion catching in his throat. I may be the janitor, but I see everything. He adjusted the mic, exhaled slowly. And here's something you might not know. I wasn't always sweeping floors. There was a rustle in the crowd, curiosity flickering through the audience. I used to be an electrician, ran my own small business. Before that, I served in the Army. 18 years. Then life happened. My wife got sick. Bills piled up. I took the first job that let me be close to her and to our son, who went to this very school. Gasps rippled through a few rows. Most had never heard a single thing about Mr. Ray's past. I took this job because it mattered, because it meant keeping the lights on, literally and figuratively, for the people who walk these halls every day. Principal Monroe, standing behind him, wiped a tear from her cheek. I don't want your pity, Mr. Ray added quickly. I want you to think. He looked directly at Darren, who finally looked up and met his eyes. Think before you speak. Think before you laugh at someone you don't know. Because every person you pass is carrying a story you haven't read yet. Silence. Then a slow clap began in the back row. A teacher, then another, then students. The gym erupted into applause, not the rowdy, joking kind from earlier, but real appreciation, raw recognition. Mr. Ray gave a small nod, handed the microphone back to Principal Monroe, and stepped off the stage without saying another word. The kids parted for him as he passed, quiet and still. Darren stood up slowly and followed him with his eyes, because something had changed, and everyone in that gym felt it. After the assembly, the halls of Lincoln Middle were quieter than usual. It wasn't the kind of silence that came from fear or tension. It was reflection, the kind that settles into a place when something meaningful has been said and people are still processing it. Students whispered in small groups, not gossiping but thinking. Teachers walked more slowly between classrooms. And in the janitor's closet, at the far end of the east wing, Mr. Ray hung up his mop, sat on a folding chair, and rubbed his eyes. He hadn't expected to say all that. The words had just poured out, raw, unrehearsed, honest. He wasn't even sure if he'd said too much. But deep down, he was glad it was out there. There was a soft knock at the door. Come in, he called, standing slowly. The door creaked open, and Darren stepped inside. He held something in his hands, a folded piece of paper. Mr. Ray's expression didn't change. Hey, Mr. Ray, Darren said, eyes down. I wrote you something. Mr. Ray took the note, but didn't open it yet. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, Darren added. I didn't know anything about you, and it wasn't right. What I said, what I did. Mr. Ray studied the boy's face for a moment. He could see the nerves, the guilt, but also something else, sincerity. It takes more courage to say sorry than it does to make a joke, Mr. Ray said quietly. Darren nodded and turned to leave, but Mr. Ray stopped him. You ever play chess? He asked. Darren blinked. A little. My grandpa taught me when I was younger. Mr. Ray pointed to a small table in the corner of the closet where a dusty chessboard was set up. Come by after school sometime. We'll play around. Darren hesitated, then grinned a little. Okay, I'd like that. That afternoon, word of Mr. Ray's speech spread across the school. 8th graders posted about it online. Someone uploaded a short clip of his words, and within hours, the post had hundreds of shares from local parents, alumni, and even neighboring schools. The caption read, Our janitor said more in 5 minutes than most of us say in a year. Principal Monroe called Mr. Ray into her office the next day. I know you're a private man, she said, but I think you've started something bigger than you realize. She handed him a manila envelope. Inside was a printed invitation the school board had asked if he would speak at the district-wide faculty training next month. They want to hear from someone who actually sees our kids, Monroe said. Mr. Ray chuckled. Not sure I'm a keynote speaker kind of guy. Maybe not, she said, but you are exactly the kind of voice they need. He didn't say yes right away, but he didn't say no either. Over the next week, something remarkable began to happen. Students started greeting him in the halls. Good morning, Mr. Ray. Need help carrying that, sir? Hey, I cleaned up my snack wrapper today. Didn't want to make extra work. They weren't just acting polite. They were beginning to understand, to respect, to see. One morning, as Mr. Ray polished the floor near the main office, a 6th grade girl approached him, shyly holding out a handmade card. Inside was a drawing of a mop and a golden heart. You're the reason I want to help people. When I grow up, she had written. Mr. Ray felt his throat tighten. He'd taken the job to survive, to stay close to the people he loved. He never imagined it would become a stage, a classroom, a mirror held up to remind others how easily we overlook those who hold everything together. The card went into his breast pocket, right next to a photo of his late wife and son. That day, as he walked the halls, his steps were lighter. Not because his job had changed, but because how people saw him had. A month after the assembly, Lincoln Middle School didn't just feel different. It was different. Small things added up. The lunchroom was cleaner. Students stacked chairs without being asked. Trash bins weren't overflowing. Teachers noticed fewer disciplinary reports. And Principal Monroe wasn't the only adult kids looked up to anymore. One Friday morning, Mr. Ray was making his usual rounds when he saw 2 students quietly arguing by a row of lockers. Before he could step in, another boy came up and said, "Hey, what would Mr. Ray do right now?" The question landed like a stone in a still pond. The 2 boys paused, mumbled apologies, and walked away together. Mr. Ray shook his head, a small smile tugging at the edge of his lips. Later that day, during lunch, a teacher approached him with a clipboard and a hopeful smile. "We're putting together a mentorship program," she said. "Kind of like a lunch club, for students who need guidance, somewhere to talk. Would you consider leading a session?" Mr. Ray looked surprised. "Me?" She nodded. "You've already been mentoring these kids. We just want to give it a name." He agreed under one condition. No lectures, no formal speeches. Just a circle of chairs, a box of donuts, and a sign on the door that read, "Ask me anything." That first meeting drew 12 students. By the end of the month, there were 30. They asked about everything, not just about school, but life. How to apologize, how to handle pressure, how to stand up for someone when it's hard. Mr. Ray didn't have all the answers, but he had the truth, and that was enough. Meanwhile, the video clip of his original speech, the one from the assembly, continued making waves online. It caught the attention of a local news station, and soon, a reporter named Janelle Torres requested an interview. She arrived one morning in a sleek blazer, trailed by a camera crew, expecting to find a man who had suddenly become a viral sensation. Instead, she found Mr. Ray sweeping the front steps of the school, wearing the same dark blue coveralls, same jingle of keys. He didn't seem thrilled about the attention. "I'm just doing my job," he said. "But your story's inspiring thousands," Janelle replied. "People need reminders that kindness and humility matter." Mr. Ray looked down at the broom in his hands. "I didn't say anything special. I just finally said it out loud." The news segment aired that night, a quiet, powerful piece that focused not on pity, but pride. Not on what Mr. Ray lacked, but what he gave. He didn't watch it, but others did. The following week, a large envelope arrived at the school. Inside was a letter with a gold-embossed header, the National Educators Honor Council. Mr. Ray read it slowly. They were awarding him the Heart of Education Award, typically reserved for teachers who had gone above and beyond. The board had made an exception because he had done just that. Even without a teaching license, Principal Monroe found him sitting outside the gym, letter in hand. "Well," she said gently, "looks like your classroom just got a little bigger." Mr. Ray chuckled. "As long as I don't have to grade any homework." She sat beside him quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You've made this school better. You gave our kids something we couldn't." He didn't ask what. She told him anyway. Perspective. That weekend at the award ceremony, he wore his nicest button-up shirt, the one he usually saved for Sunday mornings. The auditorium was full. Students, parents, staff, and strangers who had read his story. The MC listed his accomplishments, but it wasn't until the applause died down that the room truly came alive, because Mr. Ray took the stage, and this time, he didn't hesitate. Mr. Ray stood at the podium, his hands steady now. The lights of the auditorium didn't intimidate him like they had in the school gym weeks ago. Maybe it was the sea of familiar faces, students, teachers, custodians from other schools, veterans, parents. Maybe it was the fact that this time he'd been invited on purpose. He looked out and began. "I was taught that if you're going to do a job, you do it right. Whether you're cleaning floors or leading a classroom, you give it your all. You show up every day. You take pride in what you've built, even if no one claps when you're done." He paused, and sometimes he added, voice growing softer, "You get lucky. You get reminded that people do notice." A few heads in the crowd nodded. One of his former students, now in high school, was dabbing her eyes. He continued, "I never planned to inspire anyone. My wife used to tell me I was the quiet kind of steady. Not flashy, not loud, just consistent. I think kids need that. Someone who shows up even when the world is messy." Laughter, then silence again. "I'm not a teacher in the traditional sense. I don't hand out grades. But I've learned that we're all teachers, every one of us. Because how we act, how we treat people, how we make others feel when they think no one's looking, that's a lesson they carry." He folded the paper in front of him and looked up. "If this little moment in my life has taught me anything, it's this: never underestimate the power of being present, of noticing someone, of reminding them they matter, not because of a titles or a test score, but because they're human." Applause thundered across the auditorium. He stepped away from the microphone. People rose to their feet. Mr. Ray didn't know how long they clapped. It felt like forever, and no time at all. But when he returned to his seat, there was something different in the air. Not just celebration, but recognition. In the weeks that followed, more schools reached out. Some invited him to speak. Others asked him to help develop mentorship programs modeled after his Ask Me Anything sessions. Lincoln Middle School renamed their annual Student Leadership Award the Ray Vincent Kindness Legacy Award. But Mr. Ray stayed the same. He still swept the same hallways, still fixed the same leaky faucets, still picked up broken pencils and placed them gently on the lost and found table. And every day, without fail, students greeted him in the halls, not out of obligation, but out of respect. He had become more than the janitor. He had become a symbol of resilience, of dignity, of the power that lives in people who aren't usually handed a microphone, but who speak volumes when they finally get one. And as the final bell rang, one quiet afternoon, Mr. Ray stood by the front door, watching the students flood out into the sunlight. He nodded to each one, because he knew without a doubt that they saw him now. Not just the keys on his belt, not just the broom in his hand, but the man who taught them that character, not a title, is what leaves the biggest mark on the world.